Now that I have my graph, what I want to do is I want to do some stuff to make this more useful. Right now, it's okay, but I really don't know a whole lot about what's happening. And so what we can do is we can add things to this. We can go to the Customize column over here. We can change the chart style. We can add chart and axes titles. So I can give it a chart title, and right now it's called Y1, Y2, Y1, and Y2. You can change that. You can call it whatever you want. We can call it uh, my data, if I can type. There we go. We can format it. We can align it. We can put it in the center. We can change the color. We can change the text. So there's a lot we can do, and all these things, they might not seem important, but remember, if you're spending the time gathering data, and then you're going to analyze the data, you're going to build a model, we're going to fit a line to it in a minute, we want this really to be meaningful, and we're going to show people this, then we want it to be as easy to read as possible. So spending a little extra time formatting it and making it nice is important. We have our series information on here. We can format things. We can change the shape. And so I can say for my Y1, I can change the color. I can change it to green. I like to keep them dark colors. That way, if they're easy to see, I like a good contrast. I can make it smaller. I can make it bigger. I can also change the shape. And sometimes this is nice. There are some people that might be colorblind. Maybe you're going to print this off and people are going to see it, and maybe there's no colored ink in the printer. There's a lot of things that could happen, and so I like to make things very easy to see no matter what the situation. So high contrast, if you do want to look at the color, the red and the blue are very easy to see against each other. But also, they're different shapes, and I can make them also different sizes. Whatever I can do to make this a little bit more easy to be read by somebody else who's going to be looking at it is what I want to do. Now, you don't want to go too crazy. Sometimes it starts getting really difficult to see at a certain point. But doing a little bit to make it a little bit more easy to read is a very important thing to be able to do. So while I'm into here, I am on my Y series. My Y1 series, they're both Y series. My Y1 series. What I want to do is I want to add a trend line. And what a trend line does is it puts a line through my data points, and it fits the one that they think is most accurate, or that's what we should pick. We should pick the one that's most accurate to it. It's actually going to give us the option to do that, but it's going to give me more information about my data. So I'm going to go ahead and click trend line, and you'll see that it fits a line through my data. Because this data is actually pretty good, it looks like it is just connecting them. It's not. It's actually putting things through here, and these don't sit perfectly on this line. And we can see that in a couple ways. I'm going to scroll down a little bit further. This is after I said pick a trend line. I can pick other things other than linear. I could pick a polynomial. I could pick a logarithmic. I could pick a power series. I could pick all different types of line fits. But this looks pretty linear. I'm going to select that for now. And it's going to ask, do I want to label? Yes, we do want to label. I want to use the equation. I want to see what this equation is. So right here, we'll see up in the legend up here where it tells us what our different series are, that this blue line, which connects my blue triangles, that I have a plot that looks like this, an equation that looks like this. That's not necessarily enough. I like to click this show r squared value. And so what it's going to do, it's going to have this equation, then it's going to say r squared equals 1. And this data is pretty close, and this r squared value, this r squared equals 1, tells us how accurate our line fits. And it's a number that is 1 or less. So it's between 0 and 1, 1 being pretty much a perfect fit. And this is saying this is pretty much a perfect fit. I can add another trend line, but this time I want it to be for y2. I'm going to go down. We're going to fit a trend line. This one's going to be a red trend line. I want to show an equation, and I want to show my r squared value. We'll see here that my r squared value is 0.999. That's pretty much 1, so this is a good fit. And that's one way I'm going to figure out whether this linear fit is a good fit or not. If I were to have picked something like an exponential, we'll see that I had a 0.944. It's still an okay fit, but it's not nearly as good. So this r squared value tells us a little bit about our fit, but we're also going to have to think about it ourselves. We're going to have to look at our data points here, and our red data points look pretty linear. And if I put this exponential through here, it actually doesn't fit very well. So go ahead, and you have to do a little bit of both. We're going to have to see a good r squared value, but we're also going to have to make sure that it makes sense to us as well. We're going to do the same thing in Excel as well. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to move our chart so it's a little bit easier to see. Let me actually change the view a little bit more. I'm going to zoom to, let's say 150. And this is another thing you can do. You can change the size. You can make things look the way that you want. So there's a bunch of ways to go about doing the editing of things inside of Excel. One way is we click on our chart, and I can click Chart Design. And it has some preloaded different designs that we can make, like themes. I can change the colors. And I can do this individually as well. These ones are just pre-built in. There's a quick layout where I can change some things, where it can kind of redraw things maybe a different way. And again, these are just built in. I can edit them myself later. If you just want to add one thing at a time, one way to do it, make sure that you're in this Chart Design tab. And to get there, if I'm clicked outside of my chart, that tab goes away. I actually got to click onto my chart. My chart design opens up. Go ahead and click on that if it's not, the ribbon's not already open. And the very first thing you can do is you can click on Add a Chart Element. And if you click on that, there are things that you can add. You can add your axes or take them off. It'll give you a little preview even if you just hover over them. It'll let you do axes titles, or it'll let you label your axes. See down there it says axis title, and I can change what that is. So I can click onto that, add it. I can add a chart title, and there's some options there. I can add more grid lines. I can add a legend. And then I can also add a trend line. Another way to go about this is we can click some of these buttons off to the side. I have this plus button. If you click on that, it'll let you add things or even edit things. There's a little arrow off to the side where I can add extra things to it. I can change colors and other things as well, chart styles from here as well. I'm going to show you, so any of those can get you to what we need to do. I'm going to show you another way to do it, and that is just whichever line that, let's say we want to fit a trend line to, I'm going to go ahead and hover over any one of those points, and I'm going to right click. And the second thing from the bottom is to add a trend line. No matter how you do this, this is going to open up off to the side, whether you do it from the ribbon, whether you do it from the chart elements thing on this side, this is going to end up opening up. And so what I can do is I can start playing around with this, and I can make it working the way that I want. So I can add a linear or a logarithmic or a polynomial. We already went through this on the Google Sheets, and we decided that a linear was a good fit. What we're going to do on this one is we're going to go down to the bottom, and I always check these last two boxes. Display the equation on the chart, and to display the r-squared value. Now you'll see here that the r-squared value isn't quite 1. It's very, very close. This gives us more decimal points than Google Sheets did, so it shows us it's not perfect. I can play around with a lot of things from here. I can go through, I can change the color of things, I can change my marker, I can change the color of it, I can change the shape of it. And so again, just play around with things for a little bit and get used to this. So what we really want to do is we want our information to be easily read. So one side of that is making sure that the chart gives us a lot of good information. If I want to show this chart to somebody, it has a title, it tells me what the axes are. I can change it so that these are very easily read. I can change the color of things. I can make this a solid trend line instead of a dotted trend line. I can put additional grid lines in here. Anything that I can do that I feel can make it easier. I can also clean up the axes and other things as well. But the other reason for doing this is it tells me something. Even if I don't show this to somebody, I know that this equation here is telling me how these data points line up. And if I do this again for my orange set of data, and I'm going to move it so that it's underneath, so it's closer to the orange side, you'll see that it gives me a different set of data, a different equation. And this is the equation of the data. I can then use that to predict what's going to happen at any given value. And that's really the power of analyzing things. What we're doing here is we made a table. Made a table of things, and I'm looking at it, and at this point, instead of me trying to figure it out, I'm making the computer figure it out, but I have to input it correctly. I'm making a spreadsheet analyze this data, fit a line to it, and tell me what equation tells us what's happening with this data fairly accurately. And this tells me the accuracy, and it says, hey, this is a pretty good fit. And so I can be confident that if I plug a number in for X, that my resulting Y should be really, really close. And so I'm not necessarily going to do this right now, but you can go ahead and do this. If you plug in something like 4.2, that's about right here. That's an X, that's on my X-axis. And if I plug that into this equation here, I should get something probably in my mid-40s, right about right here. And again, I can do that with my other set as well. My orange data, I can pick a number and I can figure out what the corresponding Y value would be as well.